Okay, I am nervous about this for some reason.
よろしくお願いします。しませんから。
Thanks a lot, Marie. It, means a lot to me that you took the day off to be here for this.
結局私に頼るのかよ。
Oh, come on! I was just being grateful! Man, for something like this, I think we should have a bigger celebration. Pretty sure I missed the 3-year anniversary for the channel, too.
ああ、共犯？私がお前と？
Yeah, you got a good point. Still can't believe this is going up before the previous episode.
ちょっと最近忙しくて。
It was worth a shot!
こっそりやっちゃいましょ
う。How would you know that? Oh god, don't tell me you listened to it!
万端です。油断せず行きましょう。100点満点です。
What?
その損はどこなんだよ。人を呼び出しといてさ。
Wait, you're not screwing with me? You actually thought it was decent?
私が殺してやる。
I'll just take that to heart, I guess. At least it's all over and done with. Okay, let's just start the QA session. No need to make this more taxing than it needs to be. Hey there, everybody! Seth here!
よし、やりました!
Welcome to the less grand than I would have liked 500 subscriber milestone celebration! I am still in utter disbelief I managed to nab about 400 more of you over the course of the last year. To be honest, it's kind of inflating my expectations, and I know that's definitely not going to end well. Sorry! Marie is definitely right. Seriously though, everyone, whether you've been around for a while or wandered in over the past year, it means a lot to me. I would have liked to do something a bit better than this for such an achievement, but I genuinely was at a loss for ideas. That and Marie had a point that I am terrible at production times.
部長に弾が当たらないか。
Not by much, but yeah. Anyways, even if this isn't the most original idea, I figure it's a good way to involve everyone in the celebration. Of course, I also had to bank on you guys actually having things to ask me. To my surprise, you did, though! I've narrowed the pool down to about 19 or so, but I may have to axe even more for the sake of not making the video way too long. Sorry in advance if yours doesn't get featured, but I do want this to have a reasonable length. If I missed yours, it was most likely because I didn't have a proper response. For example, I hate to disappoint whoever asked what my favorite Monster Hunter weapon is, but I've never touched any of those games. That said, let's get the show on the road! The more I keep to the point on this, the better. And less work for me. Where do I even start, though?
他の方はダメでしたか?
Maybe I'll just RNG it. That seems like a good idea. Hopefully this doesn't give us too weird of an order. Okay, our first question. Face reveal when? Funny joke. Believe me, you don't want that. I may not actually look like some eldritch abomination spawned from the 9th circle of hell, but I certainly feel like I do. Maybe, just maybe at 100k though? I'm willing to take that bet.
結局私に頼るのかよ。
Who can say? I doubt I'm ever gonna get that many. If it does happen, I'll probably be more at peace with myself by that point.
いきなりうっせえな。
It'll probably be fine. Okay, second question is... When's Danganronpa? Well, that's a very simple one to answer. I'm gonna go on record and say that I have, unfortunately, already played and finished every game in the series. I sunk way more time into that shit than I should have, and I still question to this day if it was a mistake or not. Unless a very damn good reason to do so presents itself, I don't have any desire to go back to the dark dimension that is Dango Bango. Next question! I'm going to run out of varied transitions very fast, I imagine. What is the best Super Boss mod you've made? And another also asks, what is your favorite mod you've made? Very similar questions, so I think I'll pair them together. The first one kind of depends on what you mean, like best as in most powerful, or best as in most liked, like the other question is asking. But fuck, dude, that's a really tough one to answer. There are a lot of really good ones to pick from, just choosing one feels almost impossible. Well, my strongest ones aren't really finished yet, so I guess I should exclude them for right now at least. That in mind, and really thinking about it, thinking back to when I was working on them all, I think it probably has to be Revenger Bullet. Yeah, I know, I picked my main, but really though, She's not as fun to fight against as she is to use while not being extremely oppressive. She's extremely flashy and the power is very much on display. She's got a really kick-ass modded theme, and while I feel like she really keeps her style, I was able to throw in quite a few unique things to really set her apart from some of my other mods. You could say because she's my main that she has the most Seth feel put into her. And nothing screams that more than the absolute insanity that is her overdrive. Still today probably the strongest overdrive on any mod I've released. Not quite the best, because you have to survive the low health to use it when you do get to pop golden bullets. Holy shit, dude. It's like going Ultra Instinct. You know nothing's going to stop you and you relish every second of it. I honestly think Bullet is a good candidate for being a quote-unquote perfect Seth mod, along with some others. To everyone watching, if you haven't tried her or fought my Bullet mod yet, please give her a shot. It pains me to see she's kind of disappeared into the void and she's not super popular.
意外ですね。任せてください。
Gee, I wonder why. On to question 4! Yeah, just go with the countdown stuff, that works. Do you make the new AI for the CPUs, or do they just know what they have in their arsenal with the new moves? I don't do anything to the CPUs at all, actually, so the second half is correct. It's pretty amazing if you ask me. The fact that it can adapt to completely new things I give to characters just blows me away. Especially in extremely drastic cases like Kokinoe, where a lot of her stuff like her movement is different, and Mai, who is just more or less outright a whole new character. I doubt this was intentional on the devs' part, which just makes me wonder all the more how they built it. I will say it's not perfect at this all time, though. As we've seen before, it can be outright stupid and ineffective at times, like with Terumi. It seems to vary by character somehow, and it does better or worse depending on the attack or mechanics involved, but in most cases it adjusts really well. In my opinion, CF probably has the best and most well-designed AI I've seen in a fighting game, and this certainly contributes to why I think that. I just wonder how the CPU and CSE would use my mods, though. In my experience, that game had the most vicious AI in the series, so I can only imagine what kind of terror it would cause with something like Black Beast Ragna. But yeah, in short, the CPU is just super crafty and knows how to work with what I give it. In some cases, even better than I do. Question 5. Do they call him Hakumen? Yes, I believe they do. Why do I get the feeling that Noir asked this? Question 6! Will you rework the overdrive effects of your Unlimited character mods so that they match up with CF Unlimiteds and not CP Unlimiteds? Meaning no damage boost or passive meter gain, instead drive effects are buffed. A request to mess with my Unlimiteds? Now, there's something I didn't expect. Glad someone at least remembers those exist, given how they're basically overshadowed by the super bosses now. I want the CP design since I initially thought the CF Unlimited overdrives didn't do anything. Obviously, we know now that's not the case, but I still kind of like the Chrono Phantasma damage boost a bit better. It's the enabler for, I'm pretty sure all my Unlimiteds have at least one 10,000 damage route they can do because of it. Unlimiteds are a bit harder to do since rather than follow my own design philosophy like my super bosses, I'm trying very hard to replicate what the devs would have maybe done, and probably being incorrect about it. At least that's what I think needs to be done if you want to go ahead and call something a quote-unquote unlimited mod. I guess it's not completely off the table for me to go back and make version 3 Unlimited at some point. The second release is one of my more popular uploads still. I'm pretty slammed with stuff to do right now, as is though, especially with the super bosses, so I probably won't be touching my Unlimiteds for a while, even if I do decide to do that. I do have to patch Jubei's Infinite Airstall soon, though. Lucky number 7! When is the SMT if stream? Smiley face. Oh, hell no am I touching that masochistic-ass game! I have heard and seen horror stories. One of the dungeons requires you to walk around for like 4 hours, in real time, just to progress. Fuck that! Nocturne will probably forever remain the only SMT game I've played. It's just not my style. Question 8! Why is your taste in women so bad? Oh, hell no! Who put this here? Who was it? I know it wasn't Golem, so that eliminates the easy answer.
さて
Listen to you motherfuckers. I'll have you know my taste in women is immaculate! Possibly even the greatest known to man!
私に頼るのか
I'll have you know I prepped this extensive presentation proving, without a shadow of a doubt, and that is why the Yandiru is objectively the best type of romantic partner of all time! Hashtag save the new!
めんどくせえな
Wait, what? Oh, fuck, I lost track of time.
もっと苦しめ
I will begrudgingly have to edit most of that out for the sake of time. Damn it! So well put together, too.
いいよ やってやるよ。
Question 9. Why is your taste in women so good?
いってえな!
Oh, hell yeah, brother! See? This person gets it! They know what's up! The Naru is the supreme form of significant other. The shy, silent types like Kokoro are also acceptable. Though everything else, of course, pales in comparison to my undying devotion to Marie.
私が殺してやる。
And soon the world over shall know it as well! Once I finish up my latest, greatest creation! The Marie Decree! My 1100-page manifesto on why Marie is the most amazing thing to ever grace our existence in the history of the universe.
おい！メビウスを守るためにこいつらを殺すんじゃなかったのかよ！
Aha! Has my dedication finally impressed you?
やれやってんじゃねえよ！ God damn it! 他の方はダメでしたか？
Question 10. This one comes straight from YouTube, so we have a name to associate with it. Raph asks, how do you think your content has evolved? Do you think it was the mod or the streams that made it what it is now? I don't think my video format has changed all that much, but I have been getting a bit more comfortable with this whole gig over time. The new mic is certainly a very noticeable difference, even if it's brought about some new audio balancing issues, and I am certainly still very awkward at times here and there. As for what did the heavy lifting for my channel growth recently, I think the answer to that is pretty obvious. Besides that, though, the mods and the streams have contributed in their own ways to get what we have now, and I'm very happy about them both. Especially considering the streams are how you ended up finding me, if I'm remembering right, and quite a few other people as well, all of whom I'm very fond of. I usually look forward to the days I can stream again so I can hang out with you guys more. I do one day hope I can somehow maybe get a little fancier with my videos. I don't have an editor, obviously, and the software I have for my own use is pretty crap for anything beyond a basic level. And it's even bad at stuff like that sometimes. Doesn't even have fade transitions! Windows Movie Maker in 2010 had fade transitions! How does this not?
急いで鍵を探してきますから、命には変えられません。皆さん。
That one has its own problems, like making even simple things like this video complicated. In cases that require heavier labor like the video I did with Gavin, I use both of them though. God, the fact that I got no views sucks. You guys should totally go watch that after you finish this. And my Sandbag Rachel video. And all the ones of Marie!
ああ、だから、あんたもせいぜい気をつけな。
Question 11! What would you have done if you never made it this far? I really don't know, and the thought of that actually kind of terrifies me. I'm certainly far off from quote-unquote successful at the moment, and hell, even just breaking 100 subscribers is a shocker for me. But I'm astonished and very happy with what I've managed so far, even if I'm still not sure if I deserve it. But I'll keep doing my thing on here as long as I'm able to. I really appreciate everyone who actually believes in me. And even more so everyone I've been frequently interacting with over the past year or more. That said, though, I'm extremely anxious to see how it's actually all going to play out.
関わらない方がいいと思います。みたいですね。ドアに大きな南京錠がかけられています。それでは、私はこれで。
Alright. I'll definitely do that. Question 12! Sage asks, how did you get into the Blazblue series? There's actually a bit of a story to this one. Let's see. So, technically, my first exposure to Blazblue was way back in the 6th grade. I had a buddy from middle through high school who was pretty big on fighting games. I wasn't nearly as enthralled with them as I am today, as this predates my knowledge of anime air-dasher-esque fighting games. In any case, he showed me the opening song for Climate Trigger one day, iconoclast. And I did not like it. Didn't like it, paid no mind, moving on. Now, fast forward quite a ways, and I actually find myself listening to some of the other tracks in the game. It wasn't enough to get me interested, but of the few I listened to, my favorite probably became Under Heaven Instruction. Honestly, I really hate myself for not checking out Awaken the Chaos at the time. Fast forward again, though, and some of you may know that Tao got featured on an episode of Death Battle once. That is what ended up piquing my interest. It's actually really weird to think about now because I don't give a shit about Tao these days, but her very, odd and vocal personality got me curious along some of the lore that got mentioned. I still didn't end up playing the game myself for quite some time, but by the point that I did, I was already exposed to the glory and grace that is the new! Who I would absolutely say is what completely sold me. I bought Continuum Shift Extend at the GameStop to try it out, and, well, here we are. Chrono Phantasma Vanilla was the newest game at the time, but I opted for CSE since it was cheaper, and that way if I ended up hating it, less money lost. Was a little annoyed I was stuck with Lambda for that game, but that was before Lambda became a terrible character, so it wasn't the worst at the time. That about sums up all the key parts of Seth's journey into the Blazblue universe, though. It took literal years, but eventually it snuck up on me, and now more than half my channel is dedicated to it. Life sure is weird, isn't it? Question 13! Modding Raz into BB Tag when? Okay, 1, bad game. 2, he's technically already in it.
I'll cover you, Claude!
Question 14. Sister Snivy and some others ask, what got you into modding CF? Which also covers some other similar ones. We'll start with the what and why first. My absolute biggest motivator, aside from realizing it was a thing and wanting to see what I could do with it, would probably be wanting to add as much of what I loved back into CF from the previous games as possible. As far as playable content goes, CF is kind of a massive step down from Chrono Phantasma Extend, and it was disappointing. No English dub, no playable unlimited characters unless you use Cheat Engine on PC. Abyss is still there, but I kind of find the old game's version better than the one we have now. Highlander Assault not being present is somewhat understandable, but the fact someone put it back into the game is a blessing and a half. I also kind of miss how every character had their own story back in Calamity Trigger and Continuum Shift compared to what we got in Chrono Phantasma Onward. These are all things that got me more into the games and things I miss very much. And with the power of modding, at least some of these things can and have come back in some form or another. I mean, frankly, if mods didn't exist, there's a chance I would never even picked up a copy of CF, although the one I have now was a present from a close friend of mine. Thanks, by the way, Agent, you are essentially someone to thank for my channel being a thing. So, mods being possible really more or less restored and enhanced my love of the game. Though it does come with the downside that I'm always worried about people making better stuff than me, causing me to fall out of favor and into obscurity. God, I'm lucky my work is appreciated. Question 15, and sort of continuation on the previous one, is whoa there! Okay, strap in, folks, this is gonna be a long one. What motivates or inspires you to make these super boss mods? How do you come up with the changes for them? Have there ever been ideas you really wanted to implement that you ultimately couldn't because of the game's scripting limitations? What would you say is the most interesting or creative workaround you came up with when trying to get some new move or mechanic to work when making a super boss mod? Sorry for asking so many questions, I'm just into BBCF modding myself and want to hear about your creative process and workflow. Whew, okay, I was very close to reading that all off in one take. First off, no need to apologize, even if this bulk segment could maybe be considered as cheating. The point of this is to interact with you all, so this just means more of that. Second, I am unspeakably flattered that someone is interested in my process and the like. I'd be happy to share it with you and everyone else, as well as I can anyway. Should probably do this in order, though. So, to sort of build off the last question I answered, beyond just making unlimited variants of the new characters that didn't have them, it made me really think about what else I could do with that potential. Boss type characters are some of my favorite things to mess around with in fighting games, whether it be playing as them or fighting against them. For anyone that's been into Blazblue for a long time, remember Unlimited Hazama back in Continuum Shift? Remember how much he pissed you off because he's a cheap piece of shit? Or even worse, Move fucking 12? Those boss fights were a bitch and a half, especially for anyone just starting out in the game, but they left lasting impressions, right? Stuff like that and also being able to tie into the lore of the characters is what makes me love it so much. Busted-ass boss characters done right are an incredibly intricate and amazing experience. Those thoughts and desires evolved into a question along the lines of, what if we went beyond regular and limited characters? Even though I wasn't sure how it would actually be received by people, I didn't want to just stop at making mine limiteds. I wanted to do more. To create grand spectacles to play as and extremely daunting challenges to play against. And that is more or less what has led me to create my super boss mods. Next up, how I come up with the changes for them. It varies from character to character, of course. I do try to change as much as I possibly can, though, for one thing. This doesn't mean force yourself to change everything, though. Some things are better left as they are, but even tiny stuff like a paration buff or a knockback change can go a long way if it's well thought out. A very big factor for me is that the changes fit the character in some form or another. Whether it be their aesthetics, their playstyle, their lore, or other things, the more boxes these check, the better, in my opinion. Another big thing I do is I look at their weaknesses or tools they don't have, and if I feel it would fit or contribute to their playstyle or fun factor without being too ridiculous, I try to change or create something to fill those gaps. Done well enough, this can cover up some glaring flaws and make characters a lot stronger without being too overly oppressive. Or just unlock more potential on something that's already present on a character. Though, something tells me I fucked up that balance more than just a few times. That aside though, stuff like Jin's permafrost meter replacing the heat required for his D moves, or Platinum's items being changed to a meter so she can access them all freely, but without them being infinitely oppressive. Though I do, of course, take my own Seth liberties and make my mods too when I deem it applicable. One of many being my affinity for very over-the-top flashy things with lots of particle effects, if you couldn't tell already. Or if I have a really good and unique idea I can't pass up on. Something I also like in the case of messing with characters is making more complicated ones more accessible for people to use without dumbing them down too much. For example, giving my unlimited Naoto's enhanced moves their own direct command while leaving the option to get them via dash cancels alone can really help some people actually get to enjoy a character they couldn't otherwise normally use. Or just giving them newer, easier options all together that people can screw around with and use effectively even if it's not 1000% optimal in the case of, like, Arakune. Let's see, what else? This is just a me thing, but I also hate knowingly using stuff other people thought up before me. If I think of something by myself and someone else just so happened to have the idea to do it too, that's a different story. Stuff you could consider really basic, like, I don't know, making installs permanent is also fun because, like, those are just super generic things that anyone would do. But I actively avoid copying changes other people have done, and the best example of this is any miscellaneous things Baroque did to his unlimited characters, which includes the unlimited distortions I regularly borrow from them so I don't have to recreate some of the ludicrously complicated ones from scratch. I'm like 99% sure he mostly ported them straight from CPE anyway, which is something I can't do myself, so this is just an indirect version of that. I have more or less had to unmod some attacks from time to time in that process in an attempt to make them as close to their original versions within my knowledge as possible. That said though, I will be more flattered than offended if anyone happens to take some notes or even borrows moves from my own Super Boss mods. If you're kind enough to credit me for coming up with and making them, go ahead and even borrow some of my custom attacks I've made for some of your own stuff. Okay, this is getting long. Next for, have there ever been any ideas you wanted to implement that you ultimately couldn't because of the game's scripting limitations? Of course! As well as situations where I wanted to do something but just didn't know how. Though most of the examples were for older mods, so they'll probably be difficult to name off from the top of my head. Some I can think of, though, are certain Abyss boss abilities that can't be replicated with script modding, like Noelle's. I actually want to make Sandbag Rachel's projectiles hit herself instead of the opponent, but sadly that isn't doable either to my knowledge. At least not in the way of making them directly hit her. I also wanted Bullet to start with no burst to sort of incentivize the comeback factor of her overdrive. This I might actually have a solution for now, unless I'm misremembering, and it's something I've already tried. Those are just to name off a few that I can remember. There are tons of other things I've tried, but they relate to a classified project of mine, so I'll be keeping those to myself. And for your last question of my most quote-unquote interesting workaround to try and get stuff to work... Oh boy, you want me to expose some of my jank from my less experienced days, I see. A classic tactic is most definitely the quote-unquote invisible projectile hitbox to give something a hitbox that doesn't normally have one. The, hit for my modded Susanoo 28D is actually a really big invisible megalith sand that spawns on the opponent. The same applies to unlimited Naoto's Raging Storm. There are absolutely better ways I could do this now with my current knowledge, but at the time that was all I really had. My Jubei 236-236C is similar too, actually, except instead of it being a projectile, it's actually Jubei himself that's invisible. During the mid-air portion, he's actually stuck right next to the opponent during Wild Lion, and I have him teleport beneath the opponent for the final slash. There are definitely more of these, but those are just a few off the top of my head. I hope I've sufficiently covered everything you've requested, Anonymous Poster. Thanks a lot for asking, and I wish you luck with your own modding. Question 16. Will there ever be another way of interacting with you aside from the comment section? Maverick Hunter Zero here, still without a YouTube account after all this time. Oh my god, Zero! I can't believe it! I'm so happy to hear from you! To everyone not familiar, Maverick Hunter Zero is one of the first 100 people who ever subbed to me. Unfortunately, his account got terminated, so hearing from him again for so long is quite a pleasant shock. It's really great to hear you're still around, though, man. Really. As for your question, I'm unfortunately not sure what to say. Sorry, man. I guess this technically coincides with a very common thing I've been getting asked for the past few months, that being about a Discord server. I'll be brief, I don't have anything in mind like that at the moment. If I haven't already, I'll make a community post about how I feel about that. There's just a lot of reasons I've been avoiding that. Question 17! There are a lot more of these than I thought there would be. Why are you so mean to the characters you don't like?
Because they're assholes!
Though, if you want a slightly more elaborate response, you can also add they usually ruin or adversely affect something I like, whether it be another character or the game as a whole. No further explanation needed, really. Question 18! How's your day been? Well, for most of the periods I've been writing this, it's been alright, thank you for asking. 19! Almost a 20, good god. What is your favorite book/book series? Of all things I expected to be asked about, literature definitely wasn't one of them. It was like a year ago. It's probably not as long as most people. I do admit written media isn't my specialty, but that doesn't mean I'm without an answer to the question. If I give it some thought... Well, the Marie light novel's a pretty obvious pick. But also thinking back to my middle school days, there was a series called Escape from Furnace a friend of mine and I really enjoyed. As the name implies, it's about a poor bastard in his teens who gets wrongfully locked up in a really fucked up prison for a crime he didn't commit. And against all odds is to find a way out amidst all the really messed up stuff going on. Basically something more or less perfect for a 13-year-old boy who was more into video games. There's 5 or 6 books it seems, but I think I was only ever able to read half of those. I think the 4th wasn't out yet, and after I finished 8th grade and went on to 9th, I didn't bother to scope around my high school library for the rest. Maybe one day, though.
どうしました？食べてくださいよ。
Huh?!
それでは。
Okay. Question 20! Jeets asks, what plan do you have in mind for your channel in the future, other than making more Super Boss mods and streaming niche games? And do you have any plans on creating an original game of your own in the near or distant future? Two-parter, huh? This sort of covers some others on the list as well, so this works nicely. To the first half, I'm really not sure at the moment. What the future holds beyond all this is very uncertain. I do these stupid mini-so things nobody watches on top of what you just listed, and I also dabble in messing with said niche games to find or make cool shit possible in them, too. The Taker parody song is also on the way still, and I guess if that takes off even half as good as the Hawkman one, I may consider making even more of those. Outside of that, though, I really have no idea. If I take up anything else, it'll probably have to wait until after my to-do list dies down a bit more. As for the second half of your question... Oh boy, this might get a bit personal, but, yes, I do. I have a considerable desire to make my own game of some kind, actually. It is, however, far from the easiest thing to do. Game design is no joke, man. It can get brutal at times. A critical requirement is actually being able to stick with the process, which is something I've had to really ask myself if I could do. At the present time, I've actually wasted about 3 years of my life making the thing I have in mind into a shitty RPG Maker game. If I were a more talented individual, that would have easily been finished by now. But I hope to one day remake it into something more professional that I can officially put my name to. Almost definitely not in pure RPG form because, Jesus Christ, I'm awful at balancing things properly. Ideally, I would love to make something that plays relatively similar to a game called Scarlet Nexus. Given the scope of that, though, doing that as a first project is incredibly reckless, not to mention difficult for me to do on my own. Some other easier things I've considered are a visual novel, which I would kind of hate the low interactivity of, and, well, a fighting game. Replaying the Blazblue story sort of has me inspired, even if fighting game stories are considered a bit of a joke these days. Another question asked me what name I would give to a fighting game I made, but I have to respectfully refuse to answer that. If anyone happens to steal it, I'll be out of luck because I'm atrocious at coming up with names. These days, I address it as Bad Seth Game by proxy. I also kind of want to make a fan fighter based around my favorite series of all time, but that's more of an off project. Regardless, attempts at any of this are pretty far off. The computer I have right now is certainly not equipped for such strenuous design tasks, and I'm still about $800 off from getting a new one. Not to mention, I devote a decent chunk of time to making my mods, videos, and streaming. And for Bad Seth Game, I still need to finish that awful RPG Maker prototype of sorts. Quitting on it now isn't an option, even if no one's going to be playing it themselves outside of a group of people I can count on one hand. I have to prove to myself I can actually finish it. My hopes for all this are really, really low, but it's probably the biggest dream for myself I could possibly accomplish. But honestly, I'll be happy if this YouTube ends up working out. It's become a very close second of mine as far as personal goals go. Thanks for asking though, Jeets. Question 21! Almost done! Which of the 6 heroes is your favorite and why? It would, coincidentally, probably have to be Hakumen. By process of elimination, I don't care for Trinity, Terami's a cocksucker, Valkenheim is the eternal slave of a Hime Tsundere vampire lolly, which is a terrible existence to live, and 9 is a skank-ass hoe. That basically leaves either Hakumen or Jubei, and I have to say Hakumen to those two. Jubei's cool too, though. And for our final question! Question 22! If you could be reborn as any Blazblue character, who would you want to be? This is difficult and easy at the same time. A lot of the Blazblue characters live or have lived some really shitty lives. We started my replay of the Blazblue story, but I'm still not fully refreshed or fully up to date on everyone either. I'll use my best guess based on what I know and remember from CT to CPE, though. Some of my picks I can narrow it down to are Jin, Ragna, or Hibiki. Maybe Azrael, too. It certainly depends if I would also have the behavior and or history of said character as well. If I have to keep my sense of self after doing so, or at least some of it though, my pick would easily have to go to Relius. Relius is basically the strongest magic user and smartest dude in the entire Blazblue universe. The possibilities there are limitless! So long as they didn't have to inherit his morbid curiosity and blatant lack of any ethics or empathy whatsoever, he's the top pick for me easily. And, that's all. This was quite an interesting endeavor.
仲がいいんですね。ええ。楽しい時間にしましょう。
Ended up being a way bigger pain in the ass to put together than I would have thought, but hopefully everyone enjoyed. To anyone whose questions I didn't answer, I apologize, but I certainly had to cut some out for the sake of a reasonable video duration. This wasn't quite as extravagant as I would have liked, but I think it turned out nicely. Even if this 500 milestone video is now going up when I'm hovering around the 600 subscriber mark. And now more or less the 700 one. I will say, I'm getting pretty tired of these always being in the same damn room in the house over and over.
ああ、だから、あんたも
It wasn't in the budget at the time! It took forever just to get a good front door! Maybe we should look into getting a new place. In any case, I doubt a majority of you are even seeing this, let alone all the way to the end, but thank you all very much for watching and subscribing, and being here right now. I hate to sound like a disingenuous broken record, but a metric shit ton has happened over the past year, some good, some bad, and sort of blown my mind. This has gotten pretty busy, and though knocking this video off the do list is a huge weight off my shoulders, I still have so much to do. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a little stressful.
なかなか強敵のようです。皆さんと戦えることがとても幸せです。
Are you trying to bait me into getting emotional again?
そんなことないですよ。
Easier said than done. I think you're right, though. I'm pretty excited for what I have in store anyways. So even if things are a bit overwhelming, at least they seem pretty positive for the time being. Even if I'm not quite on 1,000 yet, which is the next big one, or possibly THE big one, I have to say, this whole thing with YouTube has become a bit of a life-changing experience. Just in the past year, I've gotten to meet so many wonderful people and have so many fun, memorable times with you all. Still not sure how this will all fully play out in the end, but I can say now I'm pretty proud of what's come of this so far. This little corner of mine I've established with you all remains a place to peacefully enjoy ourselves. Probably shouldn't drag this out much longer, so thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hope to catch you in future uploads, and I'll see you later.
よし、やりました。
Doing well for himself, don't you think? For now. It's impressive and yet sad in a way. Watching people dream and hoping they never wake up. Sheesh, this again? Don't be like that. Says the one who likes to nag me about being realistic. The truth's the truth, regardless of what we choose to believe. You should know that more than I do. This truth, so to speak, isn't set in stone yet. Have a little faith. Have faith. Stop having faith. Can you make up your mind? You and I both know time's running out. But there's still some left. Don't need to get involved just yet. A lot can happen in a short time. Obviously, but I hate this. This uncertainty. It's not going to stay that way forever, I just know it. Just let him have his fun. He's happy, she's happy. That's what matters for now, right? I think you'll find your doubts to be proven wrong. I can't just ignore what happens if they're right. Hey, relax. Take a load off. Like I don't do that enough already. You're a real buzzkill sometimes. Bad for your body to think too hard, you know. But I gain nothing from thinking like this. Exactly. It does get pretty boring just observing, though. That's new. Thought you weren't capable of boredom. I'm just eager to get involved, I guess. When are you not? You got me there. You're a real handful, you know that. I'll take your advice and calm down a bit. Perfect.
And while you're doing that, I'm going to go check up on the riffs. You better be less mopey when I get back.
Observation only. No direct interference yet.
Yeah, I know. Stay cool, pal.
What kind of mess have we gotten ourselves into?